got a song with ice and fire. So grab a lighter and a cold drink. Go, 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 go. Grab a lighter and a cold drink. Go, 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 go. It's go time.
It's go time. So grab your lighter and a cold drink. And welcome back to PanNerdia for the Season 8, Episode 6, the Iron Throne discussion, finale, breakdown. Hey, Ron.
Raider Pete over here.
And welcome back, guys. A little bit, a little early. Usually we come back on Sundays, but with the holiday weekend here in the States, we wanted to jump on it. And, man, our thoughts are burning. Initial thoughts, man. I mean, what do you
Burning hot with dragon blood.
Hey, man, with maybe molten throne, perhaps?
Yeah, molten hot throne lava. I think that my initial thoughts are, what a poetic, artistic, beautiful send-off for one of our main characters and the other main characters as well. All their arcs come to an end, and maybe to a new beginning, whatever, depending on who you're talking about. But the aftermath of the bells.
Oh, yeah, man.
I mean, it seemed like an H-bomb hit that city. I mean, even stuff inside the buildings was fried, but the throne scene by far was the scene of scenes as far as, cinematography, the writing, the fact that the dragon was probably bringing many fans to tears with his nudging of his mama and whatnot.
Surprisingly, a CGI beast doing that.
Very reminiscent to sad scenes in movies where the horse or the dog, nudges his master when they're knocked out or even, dead. But pretty magnificent. How many of you guessed who the king would be, though?
Right, yeah. How many did you?
Those are my initial thoughts.
What an OG. My initial thoughts, I freaking loved it. I was super happy throughout most of the episode, especially towards the end. I really was satisfied with the endings. It was bittersweet, but it was like it felt right. At least in my opinion, it felt right. I felt like I followed these characters for years, and I wasn't let down. I've invested so much time into these characters, into this show, into the story, rewatching episodes time again, delving into videos about the lore. Granted, I haven't read the entire book series, but I've watched a lot of videos and done enough research to where I know things that are different and where the books are ultimately going to end, which is how the show ended. Again, granted, it all could have got there differently, but how it ended,
the grand end all.
I loved it. It was brilliant. It was an epic send-off. It was a super, how should I put it? It was as Game of Thrones could get. It was Game of Thrones in one episode, which is perfect way to send off a series, and it ended the characters nicely, and I shed even a few tears.
Shall I start us off and walk through what the fans had to walk through and endure and enjoy and experience?
Yeah, let me go ahead and pull up some slides. And we're going to make the slides extra large.
Extra large for the extra large series that's now come to an end.
And once we get to... actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and give them an opening scene first. Instead of reaching that point, like we sometimes do, sometimes we'll open the scene, sometimes we'll talk about it and reach that scene and show you. Let's go ahead and just show you. And speaking of how brilliant it was done, and how artistic some of the scenes were in terms of just how like the juxtaposition of certain things and the layout, it was brilliant. And here's a little sneak of that. Go ahead and pop it open here.
The domination. I mean, as awful as what happened, like how still.
She just
breathtaking is it for that dragon to come and the chanting of her.
Right, and just like intimidating for Jon because he's already like contemplating things, and as he walks up, he sees
not one unsold.
What he doesn't want to believe. Evil.
That's going to be in a lot of posters and T-shirts, huh?
That's going to be in a future painting of mine.
Absolutely. The symmetry, the meaning behind it all of it.
Such a gorgeous scene, and yes, it was such a loaded
with symbols.
Couple frames, with the symbols and just so much. It was just brilliant.
Loaded frame indeed. I mean,
loaded.
The fact that even the sound, the audio was loaded. I mean, the unsullied, unscathed, all alive, all chanting. The Dothraki cavalry unscathed, all alive. Them chanting too.
Not necessarily unscathed. They were they were the stragglers. They were the strong.
I just meant of the last war that was really just pretty much, slaughter.
Because Danny took it all. But let's go ahead and start off with how Tyrion's perspective of the massacre.
Yeah, I mean, he walks right into the wasteland that is King's Landing. Jon follows. They see what looks like an H-bomb, aftermath. Everybody's, cooked to ashes, even indoors, like I mentioned earlier. And against Jon's advice, Tyrion goes into the bowels of the Red Keep, or at least we see him start to. And then, of course, we get to the part right here where Grey Worm sentences the last 5 Lannisters to death, or Lannister army men to death. With Davos and Jon against it, they eventually move on from the conflict. I mean, what's 5 more, really, when you have to get to the Queen? That's the main thing. Tyrion walks through the map tower. We've seen a lot of that in the last 3 episodes. Now it's all in rubbles. That courtyard near the hands. I guess is it the hands or just the king's court area? The small.
It was the hands. It was
right? That's the council table.
The council table, yes.
And at first, I thought that was one of the things that went down first when Dany attacked the Red Keep, but
no. But that's cool how that map split. Maybe suggesting that the north is, going to be separate from the
it was split. All that crap fell on the north.
It was a big crack in it. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. There's one of 1,000 Easter eggs. I'm sure people are talking about.
But interesting about Jon too, and his whole confrontation with Grey Worm. It's just it kind of gives you again where Jon is at this season. He's really trying to uphold this Ned Stark kind of honor system, but to his own degree in this season. Yeah. And
the fact that
they wanted to show that again.
He's also holding back from this traumatic experience.
Oh, he's in denial, but he still has to act on what he saw, like when he was stopping the commoner from getting raped by his own men. And eventually telling his men to fall back because he just didn't want to be a part of that carnage anymore. Just like Kyrie's and Davos, exactly. They didn't want to see any more carnage. It didn't need to be anymore. And it was good to see Jon still pushing that side, though I know he's in denial at this point with what Daenerys did. He's not in such denial like Grey Worm, where he's still killing people. A
lot of times in the episode, Jon first has to say a little bit of his piece of what is right, what is the correct thing, and then whether he gets shut down or not, he doesn't. He kind of just, puts on that, I'm gonna just be quiet and go on my mission here, whatever it may be. I mean, he's just going through one shock to another. Mm-hmm. I mean, when he ends up seeing Dany again, it's just like we were saying, that shot that we showed, his throat's in his stomach's in his throat. It's got to be rough. But
speaking of that, Tyrion's going down the same way because he's looking for his family, and he's probably choking up as well.
Oh, not the first, but one of 12 Peter Dinklage scenes that he is just amazing. And right there,
when
he unburies his brother and sister, and Jaime's got his his face in basically the bosoms of his lover, his twin sister, and
died in the arms of the woman he loved. Right, he said he was going to.
They probably were born, in each other's arms. So
they
there you have
came
it.
in this
More
world together.
symbols.
Well, they were their twins. They came in this world together and died in the world together.
Yeah.
So very symbolic, and she died under the Red Keep, symbolic for her. It was brilliant. I think it was well done. They did spend a lot of time with Tyrion following the folly. And then eventually searching for his family. But I did think it needed to be shown, and I did think that it was a good scene for him in general.
Yeah, I mean, him holding the torch and dropping it and already, realizing, what's over the next hump of bricks, or whatever.
Right.
And then unburying her face first, and then both of them, and the gold hand sticking out. That whole scene, he nailed it. he nailed this whole episode. He nailed the whole series.
Yeah, he could be MVP in terms of
Yeah.
in terms of actor in the series.
Absolutely.
Between him and honestly, him and Amelia Clark, Daenerys, between those two, they're MVP of the best actors in the series. Give it to Kit Harington, but he was the action star of the series,
Yeah, he was
right?
the hero.
He
constantly.
was like, didn't have, he wasn't, you gotta admit, his dialogue wasn't the best the entire series. His story was riveting, but he was like the action hero of, like, big action movie hero, where Daenerys and Tyrion had some amazing dialogue, monologue dialogue. The acting was brilliant for both of them. So, hats off to both of them.
Enjoy. Next up, we have Jon and Arya make their own way up to the top of what's left of the Red Keep, the tallest stairs there. It's now a rubble mess overlooking Dany's army, and quite the dramatic entrance by Dany, as you showed on that first clip there. And of course, her last big speech in Dothraki and her last big speech in High Valyrian. And she appoints Grey Worm to be the Master of Disaster,
Master of War,
and she makes it clear.
But he kind of seemed like a little like, okay, cool, I guess. He's
yes.
like, I thought I was done fighting. That's what he kind of, his face, like it didn't seem like he was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, some of the side smirks are like, is that seriously pissed or kind of like agitated?
You're
like,
right.
Which one of those is
Or
it?
just kind of like, oh, okay, right.
No, but yeah, little do Tyrion and they're not fluent in Valyrian or Dothraki, Jon and Tyrion.
Not at all.
So she's basically saying we're going to go all over the world, in the far
Liberate.
reaches, and liberate everyone her way that she thinks is good.
Yeah, barbecue style.
Right, barbecue ash time. So what else there?
Well, that's when Tyrion comes up and
calls it quits.
Yeah, he does. He goes up and she notices him out of the corner of her eyes and is like, hey, you let your brother out? That's treason. And he's like, well, yeah, I freed my brother, but you slaughtered
A city.
an entire city.
Yeah.
And his look, again, acting, touche, because in this shot, by the way, which is awesome when she came out.
Yeah.
The
banner and Dragon. How
there's
how
Tyrion
awesome is
there,
that?
man. As he's looking over and
Yeah.
he sold it there. He was
He's
just
got-
so disappointed.
He's got so many flavors of delivering a message.
Oh, yeah.
It's
And there's him tossing down
pretty
his
awesome.
hand pin right there. Toss it down the stairs. All the are unsullied as they're chanting.
Yeah.
And
That little action, they're like, now what? They were waiting, like, hanging on her every
they're like,
word.
oh,
what's she gonna say?
shit.
What's she gonna
Yeah,
say?
right. So he seemingly is going to get executed and gets shunned off. And
Yeah.
as Jon watches in disdain as well, somebody comes and sneaks up behind him.
Yeah, that's right. That's like Jon watches Dany walk off. No words exchanged, just cold stares.
Yeah, she's basically like, what are you going to do? Step up. And he's just kind of like, oh, fucking.
Yeah, it's kind of a shy and bewilderment kind of mixture of him, but with her, it's just like, I am the master. I am,
Right.
I am the ultimate power, and she does her little walk off. But yeah, Arya's like, so what you think? Like right next to him, like, holy crap, what are you doing right next to me? He's like,
Because he didn't even know she was in King's Landing.
but notice how you have like Davos giving him advice, and now Arya, and then eventually visiting Tyrion where he's locked up. All three of them give him that one last 1, 2, 3 of the same advice, basically.
They basically end up giving him another torch to light the way to be like, this is the right way, you gotta go, bro. Like,
Yeah.
this is it,
But-
you gotta go this way.
And the only thing Jon questioned her up top there was about, did you realize that they are executing men after the war is over?
Mm-hmm.
And that was it, But then the whole Tyrion thing had happened, whatever. And then eventually,
But he entered with his disdain, though. And we gotta talk about the Jon and
Sure.
Tyrion scene for sure.
it was brief though. But he didn't go talking about children and stuff till later. Well, that's all I'm saying.
What, did Danny?
Yeah.
No, he mentioned that right away.
Not the children part.
Yeah, he did. He went right away.
Not Jon.
Yeah, he was like,
No.
you killed all these people. He goes, and there was children, and he
No,
yelled that
that's
right
what he
away.
said in the throne room.
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
No, I'm saying up there where she comes out right there.
Oh, he didn't say shit to her
there.
at all.
I thought he mentioned
He didn't say one thing to her.
so he said the whole shebang in the throne room.
Yeah, he was
Okay.
quiet. She just looked at him. He was just like,
Yep.
it wasn't, the only person he talked to up there was Arya.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, and then, but it was good that he entered with that. But before that, who was the last person that really drove something in his head and it was about his family? It was Tyrion. That talk was brilliant with him.
Yeah,
man. I mean, it was great acting
just when you
again.
think John's like saying sorry about you, and decides to just sort of like let his mind swim, he's like, "What about your sisters? They're not going to bend the knee." And that's the button that he had to push to get John to
pretty
have that
much.
last little like nudge.
It was just a cool, interesting conversation because they brought up Master Aemon. You know that Aemon's old quote from season 1: "Love is the death of duty."
And he's like, "That's the opposite." Tyrion says
Yeah,
as well.
duty is the death of love.
But also the whole love is more powerful than reason. I think that one of them said that as well, and that's what led up to the whole, duty versus love versus duty.
Yeah, and it's just like that's kind of like the theme of John's story in general. Multiple times. I mean, even with Ingrid, the chick beyond the wall that he fell in love with, it was the same thing. He broke a vow with the Night's Watch to do that, broke duty for love, and then, eventually broke that love for the duty of the wall. So he's done that before, and that was a reoccurring thing. But it was like a
little did he know he broke that.
He did it again with Danny, but he had to. That's why he was brought back to life. That was the whole point of John's story in general. It was all king. That's where people got to understand. It wasn't John's story wasn't to become king. It was to eventually come up to this scene we're about to get to, which is right here,
there,
taking out Danny. I mean, he comes into the room and he tells her, you killed children. I mean, she couldn't believe it. But
she tries to justify it, saying Cersei put them as a weapon against me, kind of thing. And that's when he tries to sort of just, use tears by saying, like, I don't know, do you know what's good? She's like, no, I know you know what's good, and I know what's good too. He's like, what about all the other people that have an idea of what they think is good and they don't have a choice? That's when he was like, and now I'm going to give her a last kiss.
I think that was the final. Like, he had to hear it from her. He had to be like, I really got to hear her say that she's crazy. Pretty much.
It is
and that was
pretty freaky. Everybody watching the first 2-3 episodes of the entire series, I kind of was like panning through a little bit the other day, and seeing the dagger, the same dagger that ends up killing Daenerys.
Yeah.
Right there, it's like, wow. It's like.
Not only that,
that's wild.
Let's talk about when Daenerys is in the throne room alone before Jon comes out of the shadows.
Absolutely.
And actually, before Jon even enters, he runs into the snow-covered Drogon.
Oh, that's right. He's taking a little nappy wappy.
Yeah, and comes up and kind of just
shakes off the snow.
Hey, buddy, what you doing? Oh, you're Targaryen too. Okay, you can come in.
You got a Scooby stick? Okay, never mind.
Okay, well, I'm going to sleep again.
Yeah, but Dany is, though. She's hypnotized by her father's throne and seems, drunk in excitement. It's the moment her story is, basically you're at her single goal. It's right there. She's touching.
Which is interesting because
her single goal.
They showed that almost exact scene all the way back in season 2. They pretty much gave us the ending of Game of Thrones in season 2. Like season 2, episode 10. When Dany was in the House of the Undying, there's a vision. When she was in her vision, she walked into a throne room with snow.
That's right.
She walked up to the throne. Literally, though, if you watch shot for shot, when she's walking up the stairs and is about to grab it, it's like the same camera angle and everything.
The same like knob of.
Yep, but in the thing, she didn't grab the knob in the vision. Here, she finally grabbed it.
Right.
And then she also, technically, she died, so she's gonna go off to see Drogon and her unborn son from Drogon, just like it showed in the vision. What's interesting is in the vision, it showed her go beyond the wall to see her loved ones, Drogon and her unborn son from Drogon, which is kind of like saying that Jon Snow's the one who killed her, and he's going beyond the wall now as his own like self. Like I'm, we can delve into that more, but what I'm saying.
Into a whole other realm.
And this was back in season 2, episode 10. You know what I'm saying? Like that's nuts. Besides that, and then Bran's visions of the dragons flying over. We'll get to Bran, trust us. But it all led up to that. But kind of funny too. Dany had a little Easter egg about the throne, saying, and this is because in the books, she basically says, I always imagined 1,000 blades.
Was she wearing that outfit though in the dream in season 2?
No, she was wearing her clothes. Stuff. No, she's wearing her clothes. Yeah, from Dothraki shit. But she talked about how the throne. I always pictured it to be a lot bigger, and because 1,000 blades, what would that look like to a little girl? And it's funny because in the books, the throne is supposed to be this giant, spiraling, chunky. Like you had to climb this like 2 stories of stairs to sit on top of the throne, sword. That's what the throne looks like in the books. It's this ugly, gross mountain of swords that you have to climb up to sit on the throne of. Obviously, they're not going to do that in the show because you can't. It's hard to get a
You're
camera.
like, hey, down there, here's my next ruling.
Right. Basically, they just sit up there, and
Yeah.
I guess the chamber would take their voice and it'd be like,
That's true.
welcome, you know.
Welcome.
Yeah. So
Echo.
it was interesting they put that little Easter egg in there. And then we get John strolling in, and
Yeah.
the scene we talked about, and the
Aegon
ultimate
the Sixth kisses his queen, his love, then
kiss
kills
of death.
her madness
The
instead
kiss
of
of
her
death.
grace, her madness.
Right in the heart. Very beautiful death. It really was. And then, you
There's
know, puppy dog comes around the corner, yeah.
Yeah.
All sad, and there it goes, this big cry.
Yeah.
And,
You'll see here also,
yeah.
we already went past it, John holding her while she's bleeding out the mouth.
Oh, yeah, brilliant scene as well.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then Drogon taking out his anger, almost looks like he's about to burn John. But
Symbol of all symbols, right?
Right. Takes out the Iron Throne.
He's, he feels the disturbance, by the way, when she was
Oh, what a
stabbed.
shot.
Then, yeah, flies in, mourns like a true child beast of fireblood. It does not harm Aegon. Well, John, I mean. But does harm. No, he doesn't harm. He melts to nothing the Iron Throne. The title of the last show of the entire series. The reason, the mission, and symbol of Dany's death, and he destroys it. And there you have what's left right there.
Right, because you could argue that is what killed Dany. Power. The idea of the power. The idea, or the in her mind, the corrupted idea that she had this destiny to rule over all and be the ultimate tyrant breaker, the ultimate breaker of chains, and be the ultimate powerful one. And the Iron Throne was the thing driving that. And they say dragons are intelligent, and Drogon knew what Mommy was after. Maybe Drogon really didn't want to kill those people. Maybe that really was Daenerys just being like, squeezing little horns like, fire, fire, fire.
Right.
And he's just like, I don't want
just
any
do
more.
what Mama says. Do what Mama says.
And then he knew right there, because I'm sure he looked at Jon, and Jon he was just protruding that energy of just like, not only I'm Targaryen too, but also like, look, bro, I had to fucking do it. And he Drogon just like, I fucking know, dude. And then just was like, just took that anger out and melted that shit, and then scooped her up and threw her away.
Yeah, and even if he wasn't that in a keen sense that it was John's dagger and not someone else's, and John just happened to be there sobbing over her, which he was.
Right.
Perhaps it was just like, oh my God, she's just the trauma of her being dead, and then looking over at John was really like looking past him and looking at that damn throne, because he is that intelligent. And even Tyrion had talked to his siblings
about
in
how
the cave back in Marine or whatever it was. He told Varys how intelligent they were, and he put his theory to test.
Yeah.
And it came out okay, and they do understand,
Right.
like every word coming out of your mouth, and what's going on around them.
Yeah, so it's very, very cool. It's very touching. It really filled my heart, and especially seeing her fly away and getting, presumably going east to Old Valyria, is awesome. I mean, it just completes her story so well. Again, it could have gotten there differently, or, for everybody's sake, a couple more episodes to span it out, but it was all there for us, and it was well done, in my opinion. And I'm very happy with how it ended.
And just to go, the fact that that's just really the first half of the episode almost, just past the first half. Because then we have Tyrion led by Grey Worm to,
we pretty much get to the epilogue now.
Right. He returns to the Dragon Colosseum. It's all decrepit and ruins, and that's where, it's the neutral leader meeting grounds, I guess. But there seated are all the representatives of what's left of the realm, the Seven Kingdoms, that is.
And the last big houses.
Everyone gets a say or vote about Jon, Westeros, and who is king via Tyrion's plea for the best.
Right. And this is where I don't think they necessarily... I saw people mentioning, why didn't they really mention Jon too much besides just letting him free here? And I think this is because this is where Tyrion even mentions himself. They end up breaking the wheel. And the wheel was... the name. Yeah, the names, like in succeeding heirs being just the bloods of the family, the same family, and like...
Before he suggested anything, though, Samwell was like, full democracy, have the people vote, and they all laughed him off.
Everybody laughed,
But when Tyrion came up with, breaking the wheel to Grey Worm and everyone of Westeros, he was pretty much letting the lords come together in this very spot and make the decision once the other king is passed.
And everybody seemed to agree. And, again, another great scene with Peter Dinklage. It was amazing. But
So in other words, they have an electoral college, so they're doomed. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, right. But as we get closer and closer to finding out who the king is, Tyrion divulges that he's had a lot of time to think about stuff over the last few weeks, and as he's deciding on in his mind who should really be king, he starts thinking about who has the craziest story, who holds all the stories and of everybody, and
The broken.
the broken, right?
Bran.
Who would be the ultimate king? Bran the Broken Man.
Bran the Broken Stark. The king of how many realms? Well, everyone says I, and they agree, but the last person
Sansa, yeah.
is Sansa, and she's like, brother,
She's determined to get that north.
you'll be a great king and all, I love you to death, but the north is going, and she just looks away from him and just announces, the north is now, like it was for thousands
she
of
pretty
years,
much just-
its own kingdom.
And he's just
And
kind
he
of
just nods like, yep.
sure. But so cool.
Agreed.
I mean, look, I honestly, we had talked about, as an idea, we didn't ever mention it on here, but, through our just weekly passings as we discuss stuff and theories, we had mentioned Bran at some point to each other, but, it wasn't as obvious with the show. I think the books will divulge it a little better, but ultimately, I enjoyed that he ended up being king, and once he says a certain little phrase he says to Tyrion, after Tyrion says, will you pretty much, be the king? And Bran's like, why do you think I came here? I was pretty much like, because that just tells you he was playing 4D chess this entire time.
Right.
And he knew he was going to be fucking king. But makes you fucking think, though, he also knew that Dany was going to kill all those people. And he knew that...
He knew what had to happen no matter what the consequences or
for him to be,
casualties.
yes. It's like some Doctor Strange shit where there's that one instance out of him, 1 in a million, there's that one in a million time that he would be king to be able to make sure, shit wouldn't go into chaos anymore, at least for a while, as long as he was alive, wouldn't go into chaos. And that's pretty much the goal. Some say he could be the ultimate villain because he did what he did. Some could say he'd be ultimate hero because he did what he did. But ultimately, he is the ultimate OG because that motherfucker might as well have been rolling out with his wheelchair with some big ass pixelated glasses on, doing wheelies because he just fucking, between him and his Hand of the King, won the Game of Thrones. So, granted, there's no throne anymore. Who would you say won the Game of Thrones? Bran, but pretty much Tyrion and Bran, they won. I mean, Tyrion's been playing that political shit. He's been the hand more times than anybody.
How much do you think that this whole Bran knew what pieces of the chess puzzle had to be placed in certain spots, certain objects and words had to be given or said to certain people at certain times, versus him just knowing what was going to happen anyway, just going along with it. In other words, how much of it was constructed by Bran versus him just following the...
I think there was some follow, but I think it was more like he had certain points.
He knew that it could branch off this many ways.
Yes.
This one up here is the one you want to...
Yep. That's pretty
much
how...
best choice,
He basically, there was think of a giant map that's blank, but then there's all these red dots on it, and then he has to figure out how to get to each dot, and it's like this shadow realm, essentially, and he's got to find the right path to each dot that leads to the next dot, and connect it all to make sure he ends up to that one point. And granted, I wish they would have showed more of him playing his werewood tree games, his werewood net games, browsing the werewood net and doing all what he does and calculating this 4D chess, but it's just... You just have to, as a person who watched the show, realize that that's what he was doing there. You can't just be like... You can't cop out and be like, that makes no fucking sense. It does. It's just you gotta fucking sit there and think about it for a second.
Yeah.
He played 4D chess on everybody. He's an OG, dude.
It's not like they can squeeze in an episode in the last season somewhere of just all Bran warg stuff to just sort of explain
what's
everything.
going on, man?
You know what I mean? They can't do that because then that would tell you the ultimate end game. So instead, you just gotta watch, listen.
You gotta watch and listen and pay attention to the little subtleties. Because even in the show, you gotta give these guys credit, man. You gotta give D&D credit. You might be upset with them, but you gotta give them credit. They handle this shit beautifully. Again, for everybody's sake, there could have been a couple more episodes, but there weren't, and it is what it is, and it ended fucking great.
In order to satisfy Grey Worm and his army, without killing Jon, the best case scenario was for Jon to have a life sentence in the Night's Watch,
Right.
but to lead a new Night's Watch, to just join the Wildlings at the Night's Watch, or just to be sent to Castle Black and you're just one of the many.
I believe he went to go be the new Lord of Commander, the 1000th Lord Commander. Hey, Asa, what did you miss from season 8? Did you watch the episode? As far as us discussion, we're almost to the end of our discussion now. We're we're at the epilogue. Bran's the king, number 1 OG. Tyrion's the hand.
Spoiler alert, by the way.
Yeah, if you haven't seen stuff, but
That's
this
all
is a
the
review.
Starks saying goodbye to each other before they go on their own path.
Yeah, and this is Jon coming up after he sees Grey Worm, because this is the whole thing. The Unsullied made a deal. They wouldn't have left King's Landing unless there was justice about Jon because he killed their queen. So it's like you got to think.
There he is kneeling before his cousin / brother in a weird way.
Yeah,
the king.
Yeah, right. So he takes the Black and. Before he does, he says bye to the Starks, and such a good way to end it with those three, man. I mean, with Sansa, how Jon's, obviously he's not.
He's still questioning what he did to Dany.
Oh, absolutely.
Was it the right thing? It's swimming in his head over and over, no matter what Tyrion tells him.
And that's the thing. Yeah, he had a scene with Tyrion before he walked out with them, and mentioned that he doesn't know if it was right. And Tyrion's like, "Why don't you just ask me in 10 years, and when I come piss off the wall." Essentially.
So that's that goodbye between those two characters. And then he says goodbye to the other Stark kids.
Right.
At the docks there, especially to Bran the Broken.
Yes. Out of those three, though, the most sentimental one in my mind was him and Arya. It was real touching. And again, that's another moment I teared up again because
Needle was mentioned again. All the sentimental stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great, man. And then with Bran, of course, and Jon says, "Wish I could have been there for you when you needed me." And Bran's just like, "Well, you were there. You were right where you were supposed to be, essentially. Right where I fucking put you, pawn. Because I'm the fucking chess master."
That had to sting for some of these fans that are kind of just over the top, just wanted Jon to be king, and that's final kind of thing.
People wanted that quick cut ending. Bran was a slap in the fucking face, that's for sure. But
it sure was.
I liked it.
But hey, you know what? They all had their very own different journey and their very own different ending, and an enormous story of stories. I mean, like you're
well, before we get to the
all
Starks,
their paths were fun to watch.
Let's talk about the endings of the other characters. We got Tyrion as the hand. We have Sam as the new Grand Maester of King's Landing.
Yeah, all these arc endings are quite the titles, aren't they?
Right. We have Bronn finally getting his debt paid from the crown, finally. But not
Master
only
of lofty titles, as
right.
Davos said.
Davos is great. Becoming not only the High Guard in the
Coin
Reach,
dude.
and Master of Coin.
Yeah.
And still, Sir Bronn of the Blackwater. So he's got all this shit.
Yeah.
Then you got Davos. He's Master of Ships, which is cool. Perfect for him.
Yep.
You have Brienne of Tarth being the Ultimate Kingsguard. The Knight
of Knights, basically.
Yeah, basically.
Speaking of knights, what about Podrick?
Podrick's
he's
a knight now,
Sir
too.
Now,
yeah, he's a Sir now, too. And he just pushes Brandon around. So he just slings dick and pushes Brandon around, dude. He's
always got a
fucking
shit-eating grin on his face now.
He does. He's so made, dude. And then, who else am I missing there out of the bunch? That's it. Yeah, man. I mean, it was great. And of course, they're missing some more people to the council, but
that's true.
Hey, they don't really need everybody because Bran can just go do what he needs to do.
You know what? As far as I'm concerned, teary-eyed and heartstring pulls. It's an upsetting outcome for Jon, kind of, but satisfying outcome.
It's a bittersweet.
For a complete story.
For a complete story, it's very satisfying. It is bittersweet. They said it was going to be. I mean, you have Sansa becoming the Queen of the North. With the time
allotted, of course.
Right, with the time allotted, of course. You have Sansa becoming the Queen of the North, which another scene I teared up on. It was like, again, that was something foreshadowed the whole series that she was going to become a queen in some fashion.
What a badass outfit. All of them are cool, but that last one where
she had like the werewood leaves and
like superhero. Speaking of, this Friday, isn't she like?
Yeah, she's gonna be the Dark Phoenix.
Yeah.
And then Arya, of course, going west to Westeros, which was awesome. She has her own freaking ship. She's all decked out with her cat's paw dagger and her needle sword and her telescope and her map, and she's ready to
And
go.
what sails are on the mast? But
Stark. Not only that, she has the thing on the front of the ship as a wolf.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which there's a picture of it somewhere in here. You guys will see.
The bust or the mast or whatever
it's called. Yeah.
Oh, on a side note, Brienne adds the finishing touches to Jamie Lannister's history.
That's a nice one too.
In the Book of Legends, I don't know what to call it.
It's the White Book. It's the Book of the King's Guard or something along those lines, or Knight's Book, or I forget what the name of it is called. But finally finishes it and writes a good little thing. I forgot to get a picture of what she said, what she wrote in it.
Yeah.
But she said I did read it at one point over the week, and it was good. It was.
So did I do. I mean, she mentioned all the different things, and it was like a positive note about like River Run, and a positive note about
it was all that he was just being the best knight he could be. Yeah. Basically, it was like he was doing his duty to who he was serving at that point at the best of his ability.
Yeah, like few fatalities and all this. Like she didn't have to mention that.
Died for his queen being Cersei at the end.
Right.
Stuff like that. So.
But also, Tyrion and his goofball group, which they're not really goofballs, are awesome now.
But it's perfect for all of them to end like that.
But they're cool as hell at that council meeting. But Bran visits.
And rolls up and just asks about where Drogon is, pretty much.
He goes, perhaps I'll look for Drogon. Carry on.
Yeah,
and they're like, very well. Like,
and we can't mention the other little Easter egg of Sam bringing the chronicles of not only the war that Robert Baratheon brought all the way into where they're at now, but the book of A Song of Ice and Fire, which Sam helps one of the Maesters of the Citadel name, because somebody else wrote it, and Sam got the name. Yeah. So that's a little nod to what the show is based off of, the book series, A Song of Ice and Fire. So that was cool. Whether or not they'll do that in the end of the books or not.
Was it cool that our boy Tyrion was not named in the Fire and Ice book on the show mentioned by Sam?
Because I think it is, because there was also another time back in like season 2 or 3, I think it was 2, where Varys was talking to Tyrion and basically said,
books really written by
basically just like, you're going to do great things and nobody will remember you. But that's okay because blah, 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 that. I can't remember all the things, but basically like, you will do great things but you won't be remembered in books, but certain people will carry your name on, basically. So Correct. It was kind of interesting. But let's go ahead and talk about the ending of the character Jon Snow.
I would like you to tell me, who do you think will be the master of whispers, laws, or war? Okay. Any characters left over?
So let's talk about whispers.
Grey Worm would have been a good war one, but so much for that.
Whatever. Whispers. Let's see.
There's no one left.
That's the thing. There's really no one left.
And why do you need a Whisper Master when you got the Warg as the king of all wargs?
I say, if anything, do Gendry as Master of War, though he's not really a war veteran, but
But hey, might as well have the best weapon builder of weapon builders, right? I mean, he's a blacksmith of blacksmiths.
Or have the Vale guy, the guy from the Vale, the knight with the big barrel chest, the older man, because he's got that stuff. Master of Whispers, I don't know, that would be a hard one. I'm trying to think off the top of my head there. Who would that be even?
Really, Tyrion, the right hand himself, would probably be.
Yeah, you just have him do it double trouble. You really don't need a Master of Whispers.
Oh, can Sam do double duty? Oh.
Right, yeah. You'll find somebody, but okay. Let's get to Jon now. Here's where it ends. It all comes to an end now, as Jon prepares himself during that little montage of the Starks. Jon's preparing to take the wildlings beyond the wall. Not to mention that as he got to the wall, Tormund was there. Ghost was there. We finally got his little pets and kisses from Ghost that everybody was desperately bitching about. After Jon said his goodbye in episode 4 or whatever it was.
Walked off.
So, it was
last shot of the series.
It was the last shot. Very symbolic too, because the way the series opened was in the Whispering Woods, and the way the series ended was in the Whispering Woods. Pretty cool, huh? Full circle, if you could say. But Jon Snow, man, let's talk about it. Bittersweet, right? Not the happy cookie cutter ending. Most would expect But because, him having his title, him being a Targaryen didn't amount to anything. You know what it amounted to? It amounted to him being the only person to get close enough to kill Dany. That's what it amounted to. It amounted to that. Because even past the point, this is the thing between those two. Before they found out, they were in love, right?
Yes.
In love like they're almost supposed to be together. Obviously, there was a reason behind it, but in love, beyond a doubt. Once they found out, there was some sort of a rift. Dany did think he was a threat. Jon lost love sexually, but had love for her still by blood. Dany, as much as she, I'm sure was upset that he had a rightful heir, she wanted that love, that sexual love, that relationship love with him still. And, again, like we said earlier, Jon had to do what he had to do, and it ended up, he was a Targaryen to get him to that moment. He killed her, and he didn't want to be king anyway. They broke the wheel, so for Jon to go beyond the wall, which again foreshadowed that he was going to be beyond the wall again. Obviously, I didn't expect it to be the way it happened, the way it did though, where he was essentially shunned there. But me and Pete, I think, both agree that at the end, when he's taking the wildlings beyond the wall, he's probably just saying goodbye to the wall in general, and he's going to live amongst the people who really accept him.
Yeah, he's like, okay, you're giving me a life sentence. F that. I'll just go north of the wall and do whatever I want. Even though his sister, who's in control of the north, isn't going to do anything.
And Bran, he's probably watching him.
I mean, who cares? Once the Unsullied leave for North, they could just send a crow or a raven and be like, all right, you can come back now.
Yeah, right. Which at that point, I still feel like Jon would just be like, I don't even, I want to go be with these people. But who knows?
But
they kind of leave it open in that way.
Yeah, they should, too. They shouldn't do that. But, I had a hard time letting go leading up to tonight's review just about Dany, because as beautiful and poetic and symbolic it all was and how it all went down, on this slideshow here, you see Dragon grabbing her and taking her off. Obviously, he's crossing the narrow sea to take her there, right?
Most likely.
He's not going to just dump her off in the ocean or something.
Yeah.
He's not going to set her aflame. She can't be burned, even dead, I don't think. So, it's something to fantasize about. Like, she goes and gets resurrected on the other side of the sea, then has twins, one evil and one good, boy and girl.
Never. If that ever happened,
Targaryen,
I
you
would
flip
be
the
done.
coin. What if there's twins? One bad, one good.
I'd be done. I'd be so done.
And then fast forward, 20 years ahead, and Jon comes back down, and he's like, Tyrion, you guys suck. What happened? The people revolted on you, and, everything's gone to shit.
I'm king now.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. Or, better yet, Jon keeps going north, goes to a new continent that you can't find on any maps online right now, and ends up doing a full circle and coming around and then meeting by, a long shot just out of nowhere.
He runs into Arya, who has her own series.
No,
too.
I was going to say the twins I just brought up.
God.
Okay, and then I came to the realization that those were just fantasy dreams, and I love the show and how it ended, and what a great series of all series. I mean, right now it's the best thing to ever come to television, so we'll see what else they have to offer with these.
It has been the best.
These prequels, I guess you could say.
It has been the best television series of all time. That's for sure. I think it will still go down. As many people, again.
You can't compare it to a lot of others because the budget is huge.
Right, and it's a different genre.
And a totally different genre. It's definitely inspired by Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, but definitely with more of an oomph when it comes to writing and storytelling of all these characters. I mean, it's
putting
not,
you
it's,
into the.
It's not a journey of
it's
not a journey of just a group or a singular person. It's the connection of how all this comes down to one end game.
Right, exactly. And again, the bittersweet ending kind of comes with how life really is. It's life is kind of bittersweet. Some people get off better than others, but sometimes the people better off don't end up getting the ultimate ending you think they were going to get. Or, the people who you think were always going to be losers end up getting the better ending than the ones who you thought were going to get it. So that's life for you. It's just the way it works out, and that's where I think this show really does it. Not only to bring you into the world, but it makes you feel the grittiness of what if you were a human in this world? What if you were in this, war, scorned landscape that was fighting over this throne that was all about power with the threat of mythical beasts and ancient, lore, magic, and then also the evil of man in a time where, it was feudal times where you just killed if you got in an argument.
And every leader,
you cut somebody's fucking head off if you didn't like them.
Every leader was a tyrant in their own way. Whether they were psychotic or just filled with ego or whatever else. They seemed. I mean, Robert Baratheon, he was kind of an a-hole drunk,
right.
And he had this passion to kill.
Right, he was a good king.
And he didn't. I give him this. He didn't know the truth about this, Ned's sister and all that.
It just would show you what a king
But yeah, looking back at Ned's scenes now
right.
and knowing what he knows is so impactful to rewatch this first season.
Oh yeah, it is, man. I mean, how much they foreshadowing? Again, foreshadowing might not be good writing. It is. Shut up, it is. Ultimately, it was a brilliant series. Hats off to you. We definitely want to come back and do some roundtable discussion, of just the series in general, whether we have to break it up in multiple podcasts, whether we do it in one big blast.
If it's one big blast, I have an idea for 2 really funny segments, but never mind.
Hey, we'll discuss it, but ultimately we're gonna come back for that. Definitely because we got to talk about more stuff. We're both going to start reading the books and delving into them, so Absolutely. We would love to have discussions about those. And then, of course, you have the prequels coming out. You have the Blood Moon coming out, which is the first greenlit prequel that's already getting a pilot recorded, filmed. So, they're saying that could be out next year. This time next year, the series could be out, first season. So that could be interesting. Real excited for that. They have other series in the works, possibly one about the Targaryen conquest, Fire and Blood, maybe something with the Duncan and Eggs books. So much they could really do, and it's amazing and exciting, and we'll be here for that.
Can't wait to see who they cast for all those parts.
They already got Naomi Watts is going to be in Blood Moon. She's one of the characters.
All right.
Yeah, and there's other casting announcements for the prequel series already too, but Naomi Watts is the one name that I caught right off the bat.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
Well, hey, bring it. Bring Westworld next year.
Oh yeah, Westworld season 3. Westworldia. That's right. Westworldia returns 2020. Whatever that means, whether it's in
probably spring.
It's probably early spring-ish. But it'll be back. You guys can go check the little teaser trailer on YouTube.
Featuring who?
Aaron Paul, a.k.a. Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad.
That's right.
Who's going to be a human, ? In the real world of the Westworld. So, little interviews I read. There won't be as much focus on the park of Westworld Park this season. Doesn't mean they won't show other parks, but there will definitely be just more in the real world, unless some big twist. The real world is another park. So, you guys know we'll be here for that. In the meantime, as we break from Game of Thrones and go time, we will be back for, like I said, more Game of Thrones discussion to kind of sprinkle in here to keep you fed. But as far as other shows, I don't know. We'll announce some stuff as time goes on. But, of course, always be looking out for more content here on PanNerdia, because we'll keep bringing it. And as summer is starting, we'll be a little busy. But, give us a few weeks, and you might see something new as far as shows or discussions.
Similar setup or even more awesomeness here from PanNerdia Studios.
You got it. So, thank you guys. For catching us here on PanNerdia for Go Time.
Is there any way to go out with the song?
Oh yeah, I can throw the theme song on before we leave. But also I want to say real quick, thank you HBO and thank you Game of Thrones, and really thank you
Thanks,
George, for creating this awesome series and then eventually allowing D&D to take it over and HBO to fund it. So it was great. Thank you for an awesome chunk of my life.
Great combo.
It was amazing. And I will, of course, watch that series probably many times over my life. So, and continue
Can't wait
to delve
for the
into
full
the world.
box set that comes in one box that looks like
like
I
a
don't
dragon
know.
egg or something.
Yeah, there you go.
Or like the Iron Throne, probably.
There you go. You could probably have your choice, I'm sure.
With dragon blowing it down.
Yeah, pick one for $350.
Right. So thank you guys. You have a great Friday night. Great night in general.
Make a Game of Thrones video game
Right.
that plays like Red Dead Redemption.
Well, they already
Please.
another thing too. Another interview. George R. R. Martin said that he was talking with a Japanese video game developer. What? Probably the ones who do something with Bloodborne. What? Which kind of has something to do with like Dark Souls. What? Would it kind of have something to do with like Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice? What? Either way, that sounds pretty cool. So we'll leave you guys with that. I'm thinking about awesome Game of Thrones video game. Let's go. One that actually like is legit.
Can you throw out 3 whats and I'll just mouth it while you say it? Go.
What? Yes.
Go, go,
Grab a lighter.
go. Let's talk about a song of ice and fire. So grab a lighter
Going. Going.
and a cold drink. Go, 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 go. Grab a lighter and a cold drink. Go, 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 go. It's go time.